I don't think that either Julie or Ellen need to be introduced. They are both, as we've said this morning, really, we're so lucky to have both of them in the positions that they are in. I feel especially really fortunate to count both of them as my sisters, my friends, just two incredible women that we really are very blessed to have in their positions. Julie and I were also remarking that Ellen, we would not be where she and I are if it weren't for Ellen when she was at the Rosenberg Foundation. And again, a thank you to the Rosenberg Foundation for the incredible support that so many advocates, everybody in this room but beyond these walls have played. So a thank you to both of you. So we're going to basically have a conversation among the three of us, and we will very quickly open it up to all of you as well, because we do believe that this is a dialogue. I believe Julie is going to need to leave at 4, so we will have to end on time. But Ellen will be here, and we also have the reception this evening, so hopefully you can all engage. So I guess the first question we wanted to ask Julie and Ellen was about, they were one of us, right? So what does it feel like to be in government now? So I'll see which one of you wants to start. We'll stick to the we. No.
Well, I remember thinking that the most important thing, of course, was to arm advocates, visionaries, with the support, not only financial, but the other kind of strategic support, so that they could do war, both with the bad guys, that is, bad industries, exploitive industries, government, that wasn't enforcing the law. Now, of course, it's very painful sometimes to sit here and to take rightful criticism that we're not there enough, we don't have enough staff to protect workers, and to have a thick enough skin to take that criticism and try to move with it, to appreciate it. It's personally hard, but I want to say, just as my years in the foundation, which were rich and wonderful at Rosenberg, and wonderful even more because of all of you, and the inspiration and the camaraderie with other funders, to challenge us in government, just like it's important for you to challenge funders about what is possible, what could be done, and to break, funders from also their beliefs or what might be the fickle, thing of the year or whatever. I'm proud Rosenberg, and I really congratulate Tim on being able to continue the momentum. The vision, that created before my time, supported Julie's work, was fundamental in passing, joint liability of garment workers has now, blossomed forth in many other industries and occupations to protect workers. But I don't want to get carried away. These are other questions. But I just say, personally, it's both joyful to be in a position in a progressive administration to have the power we can exercise. It's important for advocates to keep pushing us, to be able to run with the evidence you're documenting across the board, with from worker health and safety to labor standards. And so, why don't I stop?
So I find the challenges to be just a little bit different, which is it's incredibly difficult not to be able to do the things that you wanted to do as quickly as you want to do them. And I would say that's the single most difficult thing about the transition. But obviously, being here, it's just, wonderful. I know saying that, we were part of the community is partly accurate, but it's also, I continue to consider myself, obviously, this is my community. And I just wanted to make another point to the funders too, is I guess what is exciting about being in my position in a gathering like this is that I feel like I have to say that I think that this is an absolutely critical moment in time to be gathering funders to talk about this kind of work, because all the things that I did with all of you for decades, really, that we needed the resources to do, which was to convince the people in positions of power that change was needed, that work doesn't need to be done now at the same level that it had to be done before. But what we do need tremendous resources to do is to actually be on the ground making the change real. And I think that's actually a tremendously greater challenge and a lot more resources that are needed. But I've relied on so many of you to do that in my year and a half on the job. And I would love to see that all, like an influx of funding to make it possible for more of the foot soldiers on the outside to support what we're trying to do on the inside.
And Julie, can you just talk a little bit about what you are trying to do on the inside? What are some of the priorities for the Labor Commissioner?
Sure. So I will say when the first time I went to talk to the administration about this job, I was asked a similar question, and I think they were shocked by the level of detail and thought that I had about what needed to be done. And obviously that's not because of me, that's because of all the work that we were all doing. I mean, Betty Hung and I sat in meetings with the Labor Commissioner's office for years on end with massive lists of things that we wanted changed. And I found many of those, and Betty and I laughed about them when I was going in to say, now I think we can get all these things done. So there was a tremendous list of those things, and the fact that I got the job, I think, and I still take as a good sign that many of those things are desired. So instead of summarizing kind of the work, I just wanted to highlight a few things that we are trying to do. And I think they really just weave in themes of what you all have talked about, right? So one of our primary functions is a wage claim process by which between 35 and 40,000 individual workers a year come to file claims to get their wages back. And almost everybody in this room, I think, has interacted with that process as an advocate for workers. And a couple little changes that we've made are, for example, all deputies now have to read a statement at the beginning of a conference between the parties, making it very clear that no conversation or questions about immigration status will be tolerated at any point in our process. So I know that seems like such a tiny little no-brainer, but I think it matters. And what happens inside is people will say, well, it seems ridiculous to do that because there are many cases in which it's clear to everybody that that's not an issue, which I find that sort of a problematic assumption in the first place about when it would be an issue. But I also think that the gains from doing that are great enough that to the extent it doesn't matter to the parties in the room, it's worth it to have that as a clear comment that's made. And the other thing that we do is obviously field enforcement, BOFE, and a few of the changes that we've made there are, I think, at the heart of what a lot of this conversation will be about, which is how do we get better leads from the folks who are in the community, who workers already trust, who have the same interests as we do in effective enforcement, and how do my deputies work closely with each of you to make sure that our investigations are as in-depth as they need to be. In the past, the priority was on number of inspections. So the more inspections, the better. And I could see now being inside for a while why that led to a certain tension between the DLSE and those of you on the outside who were saying, we're not asking you to do a lot of investigations, we're asking you to do a good investigation. But where the marching orders they got was hit as many employers as you can. Doing in-depth investigations was made all but impossible. So we've really changed that, and we talk a lot about getting wages back into workers' pockets, which gets me to a third priority, which was the creation of a criminal investigation unit, which is meant to make sure and make clear that the state of California is saying that when you steal workers' wages, that's as much a threat to the financial security and the safety of our communities as anything else. The fourth priority is, and everybody talked about this, my office is charged with investigating retaliation. And when I walked in, the average amount of time it was taking to investigate a retaliation complaint was 444 days. And the abandonment rate of cases was extraordinarily high, which I took, I mean, this is like a language thing. I mean, we call it abandonment because it was an easy way to say people had walked away from our process because it was so crappy that why would you wait around for the end result? So we've moved that. We've quadrupled the number of cases that are being investigated within 60 days. We've set a prioritization method by which we're prioritizing cases in which retaliation occurs immediately following an investigation by my office, a wage claim filing, or an OSHA investigation. And I think that's been somewhat successful, at least, at sending out a message that we're serious about retaliation. And the fifth and last thing is, I know I heard people talking about this too, is, you know, judgment enforcement, or what people often call collections, is a terrible, the results are so awful that it tends to make the rest of the process seem worthless. And so I've really taken a really close look at how we do judgment enforcement. Part of it's changing it from collections to judgment enforcement to make it clear that these are folks who actually have a judgment for wages against them, right? It's not like trying to collect, you know, an unpaid debt for merchandise. This is actually something that workers are owed as part of their livelihood, and enforcing the judgment. And so, again, to weave in this theme of partnerships, I think it's okay to announce, but I can't quite see his face. So we are actually about to enter into a contract with the Wage Justice Center and Matt Ciroli to come and do judgment enforcement for the DLSE and to train us internally on how to do it. And I know, I'm so excited about that. And so that was we did an open bid, and we chose the best bid in the state of people who knew exactly how to do this work on the judgments that we get, and I think that's a really exciting new change. But so the last thing I'll say is that, you know, process changes are obviously only part of the solution, although they're really, really important, and pretty much I've been living and breathing that for a long time now, it feels. But a lot of it is about culture change inside agencies. And so I think that ultimately that's going to be a greater challenge and a greater legacy. And it's about what Nady said earlier, that, you know, sometimes the leadership can say certain things, but if the agency itself is not doing it, it really matters very little. And so trying to change culture, trying to move the agency from one that has gotten used to being a bureaucracy to being one that's much more mission-driven is really, really exciting to me. And I feel like I'm in a really good position to talk about that, because what I say constantly internally is, you know, I come from a mission-driven background. I've been in mission-driven organizations all my life, and those organizations really get stuff done with the same limited resources, with the same budget problems, right, with the same staffing shortages that you all complain about. But if you're mission-driven, it's a whole different approach to what you're doing. And a lot of what I say, you know, the message that has been given to this agency for a long time is we have to be neutral, right? We're government, so we have to be neutral. And what I keep saying, and I actually feel like I should hire David and Anat to come in and track what I'm saying internally to my staff. I'm sure it would be eye-opening for me in terms of changing my own messages. But what I keep saying is we're not a neutral agency, right? We're a law enforcement agency. We're on the side of the law. And so if somebody has broken the law, you know, we do get complaints. I've fielded thousands of them that we're not on their side. And my answer is, we're not on your side. If you've broken the law, we are not on your side. We're not supposed to be.
That's great. So exciting. This is why we need you there. And so this notion, I can only imagine, like, the culture change and processes, which I have to imagine must be very similar, Ellen. And, you know, this morning we heard from Ruben, one of the warehouse workers, about the health and safety violations and just the horrid conditions, which I know Cal OSHA has been really critical to that campaign's success. So can you share a little bit about what you are seeing internally as well in terms of those priorities?
Right. I think you know, that the warehouse campaign has, for so many people, really crystallized the kind of whole view of worker. Not this sort of, you know, in the foundation world, we talk about silos, you know, that everybody's in this world and that world. Obviously, the kinds of conditions, the exploitation of workers, you know, the extent to which the warehouse, the logistics industry will go to avoid paying people decently, and avoiding protecting their health and safety, you know, are just astounding. And the difference between unionized warehouses in Northern California and the, you know, Wild West of the Inland Valley, as advocates have urged us for many years not to call it the empire, you know, with reference to the KKK. that campaign really has, I think, you know, as many other brilliant campaigns, really brought that to the fore. But it was also because of not only the vision, but also access to really good skills